Welcome everybody. I'd like to call to order the steering meeting for September. And like I always do, I'll start off with opioid ODs and suicides, and we had 14 for the month of August and 6 suicides. So the number is rising. Before I get started, I wanted to start with our approval of minutes, and I'd like to call on Vice Chairman Pettis Reed.
Mr. Chairman, the minutes are located on your SharePoint, Commissioners. Had an opportunity to look over those. Mr. Chairman, I move that be approved.
I have a motion. I got a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner McAdoo. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Move on. I want to go with number 4 first, fill 2 vacancies, Code Enforcement Adjustments and Appeals Board. We have one applicant. It is Gary Wisnowski. So we need a motion to carry him through. So do I have a motion? Commissioner McAdoo, motion. Second. Got a second with Commissioner Rather. All those in favor of Mr. Wisnowski to be on Codes Enforcement, say aye. Aye. Opposed? I'm not even going to try to say your name, Gary. I'm going to try one more time. Wisnowski. How about GW? All right, next is we're going to, I know I'm skipping around here, but I'm trying to keep everything in line right here. Next, we're going to go to fill 2 vacancies on the beer board. We have 3 names. They are Dennis Jungman, Keith Bratcher, and Larry Jernigan. Is any of these people here? Mr. Bratcher, you come up first. And Mr. Jungman, you come up second. Is Larry Jernigan here? Okay, go right ahead, sir.
My name's Keith Bratcher. I know most of y'all. I've served on this board for 27 years, since 1994. And our meetings are done in the clerk's office, Ms. Crowell's office. She has an excellent staff over there. We get along real good, have a good board. So I'd just like to continue to serve. So if y'all have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Is that it? Any questions? How long have you been on the board, sir?
27 years.
27 years.
Mm-hmm. First board I ever got on, first board I ever served on, so still there.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Mr. Jungman? Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
You're recognized.
Thank you. Sorry about the limping. I had surgery on Tuesday for my knee, so I wanted to be here for this. I want to get involved with my community, try and get on any board possible. My experiences are, I was brought up, of course, in South Nashville, but I've lived here since 1979, 70, and 80. Also, I got 20 years of military with the Tennessee Air Guard, Tennessee in the United States Air Force, and I also taught Rutherford County Schools for the last 14 years where I retired just in May. So I have some time. I want to help with the community and try to do what I can and try to get on any board I can to be a part of it. Thank you. Any questions?
Questions, gentlemen? There's none. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. All right, we got 3 applicants. What I'm going to do is we're going to vote for 2. Again, they are Dennis Jungman, Keith Bratcher, and Larry Jernigan. So we'll call roll and we'll vote for 2. Go ahead, Rachel.
Commissioner Stevens?
Bratcher and Jernigan.
Commissioner McAdoo?
Bratcher and Jernigan.
Rather?
Bratcher, Jernigan.
Commissioner Johnson?
Bratcher and Jernigan.
Commissioner Reed,
Bratcher, Jernigan.
Chairman Harris.
Youngman and Bratcher.
Bratcher and Jernigan.
Mr. Bratcher, congratulations. You'll go before the full commission on the next Thursday. And Mr. Jernigan. All right, moving on. We have 3 vacancies on the BZA, Board Zoning Appeals, and we have 4 applicants. So we know Gary's here. Do we have Mike Curtis here? Mike Curtis is here. Renee Curtis is here, and William Harper. All right, ladies first. Welcome. You're recognized.
Good evening. Nice to see everybody. My name is Renee Curtis. I filled in for Commissioner Rather when he stepped up to be commissioner. I've been on the board for 2 years. Very much enjoy it. Sometimes it's a little challenging and it can get a little tedious, but I do enjoy it, and I would appreciate your vote to continue. Any questions?
Is this your first term?
Yes, first full term.
First full term? Okay. Thank you. Mr. Curtis? You recognize?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Mike Curtis. I have lived here in Rutherford County since 1983 and have been working for the county since 1990. In 1990, I became a member or employee of the Rutherford County Planning Commission, and part of my duties as a member of the Planning Commission was to be a staff person for the Board of Zoning Appeals. I continued in that position until August of 2005. So I have 15 years experience in working with the Board of Zoning Appeals and would like to consider y'all's vote and appreciate your vote to serve my community in a better way than I already am. If you got any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Are there any questions? None? Thank you, Mr. Curtis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Harper? You recognize?
Commonly called Bill Harper. I came to Rutherford County 2 days before the big rain today. And that also reminded me that I was in Waverly, but that was 1945. So I claim citizenship of Tennessee. This is my second term coming up on the Board of Zoning Appeals. It is humbling, it is an honor, and it is a privilege to serve the people of this community. It makes you think about both sides, whether you want to go with a group or you want to stand for a cause that is within the law. I've enjoyed it. It is nice to serve the people of this community. Any questions? Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. EW. You were recognized.
Mayor Ketron, members of the steering committee, and guests. I was first going to try for the beer board, but that gentleman told me we don't get samples, so I decided the BZA would probably be better. My name is Gary Wisniewski. I'm here tonight to thank you for the honor and privilege to speak with you this evening regarding my desire to serve on the BZA. I currently reside at 4209 Emerald Drive in Rutherford County with my wife Donna of 37 years. We moved our family to Murfreesboro 32 years ago and have enjoyed the privilege of raising our 3 children in this exciting and ever-changing community. We are devoted members of St. Luke's Catholic Church in Smyrna and have been involved in leadership positions on the Boys and Girls Club, Habitat for Humanity, St. Rosalima Catholic Church, St. Luke's Catholic Church, Leadership Rutherford, and the National Association of Home Builders. After moving to Murfreesboro in 1989, we opened Landmark Homes of Tennessee in 1990 and have built over 3,000 homes in Middle Tennessee. Also developed over 100 subdivisions and 3,000 residential building lots. Being in the home building and development business allows me the ability to have my finger on the pulse, not only of Rutherford County, but 6 other surrounding counties where we build and who are all growing at alarming pace. This situation is a blessing for us, but must be managed to promote smart growth for today, tomorrow, as well as 30 years into the future. The BZA board is essential and integral in providing our citizens with the best possible building construction available today. Having been in the construction industry in Middle Tennessee for the past 30-plus years, I believe that, if chosen, I could provide solid leadership with impeccable insight on decisions that will affect our entire community. It is my desire to humbly ask for your vote this evening for this honored position. With that, if Rutherford County has given to me and my family, it would be an honor to be awarded another opportunity to give back to this community that has been so gracious to us. And I yield to any questions.
None? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank all 4 of y'all. I think what I'm going to do, I'll tell you what, we got 4 applicants, we're going to vote for 3. All right, we're going to do 1 vote. So, the names are Gary Wisnowski, Mike Curtis, Renee Curtis, and William Harper. So we're voting for 3. Go ahead, Rachel.
Mr. Curtis, Mrs. Curtis, and Mr. Harper.
Thank you. Mike Curtis, Renee Curtis, and William Harper, correct? Yes. Thank you. Commissioner Johnson?
I'm going to have to vote for Gary because I can't pronounce his last name.
Okay.
Okay, is that sufficient?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Harper and Mike Curtis.
Mike Curtis. So Harper, Curtis, and Wisnowski. Okay, and Gary. Commissioner Reed?
Harper, Renee Curtis, and Mike Curtis.
Harper, Renee Curtis, and Mike Curtis. Commissioner Stevens?
Harper, Renee Curtis, and Mike Curtis.
Renee Curtis, Mike Curtis, and William Harper. Commissioner McAdoo? Harper. Renee Curtis, Mike Curtis, William Harper. Chairman Harris.
Gary Wisnowski, Renee Curtis, and Mike Curtis. Got it. All right. The recommendation goes to Mike Curtis, Renee Curtis, and William Harper. All 3 of y'all need to be at the commission meeting where we'll vote on you. And thank y'all for coming. Also, Mr. Wisnowski, you're on the Code Enforcement Board, so you need to show up as 2. If you don't have to show up, it would be recommended. Thank all y'all, appreciate it. Next on here on the agenda is appointment of Judicial Commissioner John Wiggers. So we need just to give a motion for approval. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Mr. Stevens, do I have a second? Commissioner Johnson. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We have number 6, we have appointment of Judicial Commissioner Ethan Conklin. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Commissioner Rather, do I have a second? Mr. Johnson. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? All right, next on the agenda is the 2021-2022 standing committees. Commissioners, we had a commissioner called in, and on your iPads we have 2 committees. One is the Drug Task Force, which I oversee, and the other one is the Ad Hoc Committee. Both these are not standing committees, and we are not voting on them. We shouldn't have been on this list. This is only on standing committees. My recommendations to you are the same. We have not changed anything, but I made one change, and that is I am taking Virgil Gammon off of purchasing and putting him on health and ed, and I'm taking David Gammon off of health and ed and put him in purchasing. That is the only changes that I made on this. So, is there any questions on them? If there's none, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve as recommended.
Mr. Johnson, do I have a second? Commissioner Rather. All those in favor of sending these to the floor, say aye. Opposed? Moving on. Next is reaffirming the Ethics Committee, which is Ted Beatty, Robert P., Rhonda Allen, Joanne Medlin, Craig Harris, to another term of the Ethics Committee. Do I have a motion? Commissioner Reed, do I have a second? Commissioner Rather. All those approve, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Moving on. Next is reducing number of commissioners during redistricting process. This ought to be a goodie. So I'm going to start off with the man who brought it up. Commissioner Stevens, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 10 years ago, when the commission was redrawing boundaries, there was an effort to cut the size of the commission. And as we looked and did our research to find out what our options were, the state law says that a county commission must have at least 9 to 25 members. And then we looked at our school board and road board zones and the way that our private act is set up, which is bizarre to say the least, but the county school board and road board zones follow the county commission districts, and it numbers which ones of those are in which school board and which road board zones, which probably needs to be simplified and updated at another time. But essentially, based on the way things are now with our private act and the state law, we can either have 14 or 21 commissioners. We could make it 9 and do all the work to change the private act and make the school board and road board zones different, but that I think would just be way too much work. There was quite a bit of support out there in the public 10 years ago when we brought this topic up. There were people that were calling the members of the redistricting committee and asking them to prepare a map, at least to have an alternative between 21 and 14, and the redistricting committee decided to jam through their rough draft quickly because they were getting pressure from the public, and that's how we ended up with the map that we have now, which was not very well thought out for the road board and school board zones. We've asked our departments over the past couple of years to cut spending and streamline. They've done that for us. I think that we also need to look within our own budget. From my calculations, if we reduce the size of the commission to 14 members, which would be downsizing by 1/3, cutting 7 members from the board, we would save about $90,000 a year. And so that's the salaries of 2 first responders. If you go out in the public and ask them, would you rather have 7 politicians or 2 first responders to provide service for the county, I would dare say that 90% or more of the people would probably choose the 2 first responders instead of the 7 county commissioners. Some of the objections that we had last time were that it was just too hard to do, it would never work, we would never be able to make this work. I don't think that's a really good argument, but that seemed to be the one that won the day. Also, another one was that it was going to increase the workload for commissioners. That's certainly a fair point. It will be a little bit more of a workload if people have a bigger district by 30%. Another option that we have to help with that, though, would be to have 7 districts with 2 commissioners in each district. and they could split the workload there if needed. Another objection that people gave was that this county just won't work if we have that few commissioners. We've got to have more people on here to represent the citizens. But when you look at the other commissions that are our size across the state, of counties that are our size across the state, they have small commissions. Davidson County has 40 members, and they're kind of an outlier, and I'm not sure, but they're a good model of how to do government. But Shelby County has 13 members. Knox County has 11 members, and Hamilton County has 9 members on their commission. So when you look at the ones in our peer group, which I would really say are Knox County and Hamilton County, we're the outlier there. And of course, I would encourage you all to go and look at how they do business there, and it's much more advanced and much better for their constituents than the services that we provide here, but that's another discussion for another day. But I think that we need to really consider doing this. We need to look at it seriously, because we do have to find ways to save within if we're going to continue to have to provide all these services for the people that are moving here. And I just don't think it's fair to ask all the departments and everybody else to be cutting their budgets when we won't even look at ours. And the only time to really logically do this is when we're doing redistricting. So I've thought through this for 10 years, and it didn't get done last time, but I would like to certainly have it as a consideration this time, whether our redistricting committee is instructed to draft a map of 21 and also one of 14 for us to choose, or if there's any appetite to just tell them we would like to have 14 members drawn when they meet and do the drawing. I honestly think drawing a map of 14 is going to be easier for them than trying to make a map of 21. There's going to be less lines that have to be drawn. As to people that might end up in the same district or something like that, that certainly will be difficult, but we are capable of making difficult decisions, I do believe. So I would like to make a motion that we ask the redistricting committee to prepare a map with 14 districts, and that we would like to move forward with that model after the redistricting process.
I'll second it.
Commissioner McAdoo seconds. Discussion? I'll start with one. Commissioner Stevens, is your pure reason that you're wanting to do this is strictly money? Or do you feel that there's some disconnect between the citizens and the commissioners, as if there's too many voices?
Well, one of the reasons, of course, is that we would save money. I do think it'll streamline the system if we have fewer people involved with the mix. Anytime you get a bigger number of people on a board or a committee, it's harder to get things done. I think that we're not the 1950s county that we used to be, where it was spread out and you needed more representatives to represent the little small community. I mean, we're a big county now. We really just don't need that big of a board to represent the community. I think that a group of 14 people could do that very effectively and save money, streamline the system, and make our committees smaller and run more efficiently as well.
And the only other thing, this was brought up 4 years ago, and it didn't get any traction. The 3 districts that you were talking about, I believe you said Shelby, Knox, and Hamilton, and are those good examples to use? I mean, that's those counties are not some of the best run counties in the state of Tennessee.
I think Hamilton County is a great example. They're really our closest peer. Knox County is very impressive. Shelby County, I'm not sure about their fiscal policies and what all they have going on down there. I haven't been to visit them and talk with them firsthand, so I don't think it's fair for me to make an opinion about them. But Hamilton and Knox County seem to work very well.
Okay, and the reason I brought that up is because they're the bottom 3 in education in this state. So, in education, it's having to be 75% of our budget. I have a motion, and I have a second. Would you like to go ahead, Commissioner McAdoo?
I looked at this 10 years ago, as some commissioners know, and I wanted to cut it to 7. The school board really have the biggest buck of setting our tax rate. And they have 7 members. But we haven't touched this board since 1978. Since 1978, that's 44 years ago. We hadn't even changed it, even though Rutherford County has changed. It's changed with communication, It's changed with the school board picking up more responsibility, and communication would be a great thing if we cut the commission. Now, whether we cut it to 9 or 14, 14 would be a good start. And if we look at cutting it again after 4 years, maybe whoever's up here, they can look at it too. But just think, this commission has been 21 commissioners since 1978. And our responsibility as a commissioner, as I know, has dwindled. School board have the biggest buck of the property tax rate. Right now, that school board is making decisions and sending them over to us, and all we're doing is passing what they say. I don't know the last time I've had a health and ed report. I don't miss meetings. So therefore, I think this is a good opportunity to cut this commission to 14.
Any other discussion? I'm going to recognize the mayor, then you, Commissioner Rather.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's been a lot of good things said here tonight. I recall when I was in high school, and my buddies would come out cruising the town, come down around the square around 11 o'clock and see the light on up here when driving down Main Street. And I remember I was sharing back here a few moments ago before the meeting started, used to make the comment, as all my peers did, you know, those old geezers are still meeting. That's when we had, and now I'm one of those, we used to have 48 county commissioners who used to meet. Alan, you probably, I'm not calling you an old geezer, but when did you come on? When did you join the county commission? Alan? 78, so that was about 71 when we used to do that, but that was when they had a quarterly court. The county commission used to be a quarterly court and then only met quarterly, but back at the time, we were not a large county, but we are today. Knox County, I was talking to Mayor Jacobs. Glenn Jacobs was here just week before last. He came with the contingency and the Dean of Agriculture. Came out to, they came down in a van from Knoxville to go out to Lane Agra and look at their facility that they have, the UT Extension facility they have out there. And was talking to Mr. Jacobs about that and asked him how it worked with, they have 9, which is the minimum. He said they get a lot done because the way they run, I believe it, he told me that it's at large, it's not by districts. I may be wrong on that, but I think that's the way I interpreted it. So you have all 9 that just all run and serve the people. And of course, as Commissioner McAdoo said, the communication is much better than what it was even 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Everybody has cell phones, everybody has social media. It's easier to serve. Had Lisa, she put together a sheet. Steve, did you pass that out to everyone? Okay, you should have a copy of that sheet of what it might look like if you went down. You can scratch out the number 7 because that's not allowable by state code. So if you went at 9 and took the amount of money that's being paid currently in the budget, so you've got $175,000 based on the number of meetings that we have, 7 members per meeting, and then the commission meetings, that's $500 per diem times 21, so that comes up to a total. You add the two together, the 175 and the 136.5, for a total of 311,500. Divide that by your 9, you'll see what that would mean as far as supplementing the income of those commissioners. So if you went with, she didn't do 14, but you can interpolate what that might be, somewhere in the $22,000 range. If you went with 9, it'd be $34,000 range that would supplement the salary of some of those commissioners. So that's our purpose. I will say, serving 2 commissioners per district, I would recommend not doing that. When I was in the Senate, I represented Murray County, and they have 2 commissioners per district. It didn't work very well because you always had, it ended up splitting the district because very similar to the way it is politically today. You had a Republican, you had a Democrat in that district, so both bodies ended up voting for one of the commissioners in that district, and they were always at odds with each other at the commission meetings. You know, so like District 10, you know, so it would line up about the same when it came down to a vote, maybe 1 vote or 2 to the other. It was just very confusing, and they could never get anything done as far as a project for that respective, if it was a bridge or a road project or anything else. Even though they had a highway department, they would have to work with that elected official. They never could come to terms to unite and work for the common good of the people in that district. So I would recommend against having 2 per district, but if you want to reduce it down to the 14 or the 9, it's worth consideration. That's my comments tonight.
Mr. Rather?
Well,
Go on, speak.
Commissioner Rather, I said it was you next, so.
well, I'm not the youngest, but I'm the newest commissioner on this committee. And there's others here that are probably they have more experience and they may enlighten me. However, before I became commissioner, and you, because you're as new as I am, right? The prior commission gave commissioners a raise. I have lost money every month since I've been a commissioner. I promise you, I have lost money in miles, time, effort, phone calls, emails, text, and the list goes on. And I don't mind that. I knew what I was signing up for. I know why I became a commissioner, and that was for Rutherford County, period. Now, if we reduce the number to try to save money, I'm concerned who is going to be willing, even if we supplement a little, who's going to be willing to serve as commissioner? Right now, 20 other commissioners that I sat with on this floor have the experience, knowledge. In my opinion, we've got a great group of people that work together to get things done. All 21 of us, we don't have to agree, but we get things done. So if we reduce it, Rutherford County is not going to get any smaller. We're not going to shrink. It's just growing and growing and growing. I've seen the projections. I'm afraid if we go to 14, try to save some money, we're really not going to save money. We're going to reduce the quality of commissioners that are willing to do it. But then in 10 years, we may be in a spot where we say, hey, we've got to increase the number of commissioners. We've grown so much. Now, that's me speaking as a 3-year commissioner. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Chairman Reed?
One thing caught my attention as Commissioner McAdoo was speaking there. He said our responsibilities have declined over the years. If mine have declined, I don't know where they declined. I'm still trying to figure that out, but he's had more experience. He's been here, like I said, 44 years, and I understand what he's talking about. But I gave y'all something there, a handout a while ago that showed county districts by square mile. Now, our districts do change by each census, determined by the population. My district right now is 132 square miles in actual size. And I told someone back there a while ago, I said, you know, when I took this in 2014, I bought a brand new pickup truck. And I had retired, and I took retirement money and bought that brand new pickup truck. That brand new pickup truck now has 157,000 miles on it, and it hadn't been anywhere out of Rutherford County much. I mean, it goes to Columbia every now and then, and it's been to Nashville maybe a few times. But most of it's been spent in District 8 out here. And I think what you see in a situation when you compare the types of districts that we currently have right now, I started out in 2014 with a farm office. And that farm office was dedicated to my writing and things like that. And I had the neatest farm office you've ever seen. I mean, I've got a stuffed coyote in there, and I've got books on the wall and all this sort of thing. And I've seen pictures of it from 2014. Now I have a path into that office. From all of this that I have not a filing system, but a stack system. And what we do there, and it's somewhat like Mr. Rather says right there, to be a commissioner, it costs you. It does cost you. Because I currently, in my district right now, I have 4 schools. And there's not a day goes by that I'm not asked to participate in those schools in some way, as well as everything else out there. You're involved in all of that. Plus, if you have a county district, as many of us do right here, you have convenience centers, you have all county roads, you have county schools, you have county fire departments, you have sheriff's departments. You have all of that within your district that people are calling. Plus, every time somebody walks in the planning commission over here, they are told to call your county commissioner. And they ask that county commissioner about, I'm going to try to do this. What do you think out there? You know, you're supposed to know something about what they're doing on all these things. And you know how many things are happening out here in this county right now. If you've been up here on this BZA to talk, see one come before here, your name is listed there. It's in your district. If you come up here to the Planning Commission, your name is listed on that application that's coming in here. And when it comes before this county commission, everybody looks at you to see what you know about that development that's getting ready to come up here. So we as county commissioners have a lot of responsibility in what we do and how we do it. And right now, like I said, we have 21, which gives us the ample opportunity as what I call part-time commissioners, because we're not full-time commissioners. But when you reduce this district down to meet the needs of the people in this county, and we're talking about a county now right at 350,000 people, your needs are going to be requested that much more, and we're headed to full-time commissioners. And that's all I can say.
Thank you. Mr. McAdoo?
No, I wouldn't say anything else, but when I say that our responsibility have decreased, I'm talking about your 4 city municipalities. Since 1978, the 4 municipalities has taken on a lot of territory. If you look at what we have now, per se, as county lying outside of the 4 city municipalities, we could easily cut to 14. Easily. And if anybody want to look at that and bring a map up here and draw out Eagleville city limits, Laverne city limits, Smyrna city limits, Murfreesboro city limits, you would see what I'm talking about. When I started up here, the county had the majority. Bill know that. The county had the majority of the commissioners. They had the majority of the territory. But now, we do not have the majority of the territory.
Commissioner McAdoo, I have a question. Is there something that is, and you can jump in too. I'm against this, so that's where I stand, so you know that anyway. We talked about it. Is there something as far as the way that this committee is acting, the way this committee has made decisions, the way this committee is leading? Is there something to make you feel that 21 commissioners are not doing the job?
Basically speaking, it's just like I brought up. We have 4 city municipalities. You take a city commissioner, a county commissioner that represent a city municipality. That city municipality overrides that county commissioner. The county has reduced in the territory that really we represent now. If you look at Murfreesboro, look at Smyrna and Laverne, they together. And Eagleville is beginning to grow some now. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the actual territory that the county has responsibility for.
And the reason I bring this up is because District 15, which is my district, is completely surrounded by the city, in the city. And the reason I say that is, even though the city, as you said, can override a commissioner, I still get calls and a ton of requests and a ton of people that come and want me to address situations like the Second Amendment, like waste management, like the communications. You know, there's a lot of those things. And I'm kind of like Commissioner Rather. I'm a chairman, so I have a little bit more responsibility as far as hours, but I agree with you 100%. I have worked a lot of hours, and nobody here is getting rich in this, which I don't do it for money anyway. I mean, I really don't. But I think I don't see a problem, and that's where I disagree with you two, is I just don't see the problem that manifests for us to make such a drastic change.
Okay, you mentioned a good thing. You mentioned chairman. I'm a chairman. Bill know I'm a chairman. I work just as hard as you, or either worse, because I am constantly looking at buildings, growth of buildings. But the committee I served on, I got to brag on them. We not only look at that, we look at ways and means that we can finance the buildings without touching anything with the property tax rate. You can look at our record and you will see that's our biggest thing that we do. And Bill would agree to that. I do a lot of work. Our committee do a lot of work. And you can check the records and see that. But in looking at the territory that we represent as county commissioners, the city municipalities got a lot more than what they had in 1978.
Mr. Johnson?
I'm not insinuating anything at all, but there's an old saying that power corrupts, but complete power corrupts completely. I don't see the rationale for reducing the number of commissioners right now, and I'm not going to support it. My constituents feel the same way. I just don't get the rationale for it. As far as saving money, how are you going to be saving money when you're going to have to turn around and the committee members are going to have more meetings? And I'm not going to support it at all.
Go ahead. You good, Commissioner? All right, I'm going to suspend the rules. And Commissioner McAdoo, you know how close me and you are. We're very close. and we very much disagree on this, but it's, that's my opinion, that's your opinion. I won't, if you want to, you can tell me no, but I'd like to have Alan Farley come up and speak on this as far as what we can do to do this, what's it going to take, is it possible? You willing to come up, Mr. Farley? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the chair of the redistricting committee, we'll prepare whatever this body, or this county commission asks us to. When I was contacted about this, some of the things that kind of came to my mind was, of course, the 7-member commission, of course, by statutes, not allowed. That came up, but one thing is fact of, and Commissioner Stevens touched on it, because there's some good points here on both sides. So really looking at this from a election commission, from an electoral standpoint, as a redistricting standpoint, my concern is, as I brought up in February when we first started talking about this committee, about starting that process, because I contacted the mayor of Smyrna. I also contacted the mayor of Murfreesboro and said, is there any interest in councilmanic districts? If it is, now's the time for this discussion, because as we're starting this process, go ahead and do it. But that was back in the spring, because this is not something to me that we want to jump in and do in a 2-week, 3-week deal, because there's a lot of unintended, unforeseen consequences that could come up. Because the first thing that came to my mind was the fact of the private acts that dictate how our road board and how our school board is structured and how those laws, those lines are drawn. Because if we went to 14, or if we went to 17, or whatever, by statute, we have to fulfill a boundary map for the county commission district. So if we go to 14 and there's 14 districts, that private act still says that districts 14, 15, and 19 or whatever is zone 5 or 6, whatever it is, on the for the road board and for the school board. So with that, we don't have those districts to fulfill that requirement based on that private act. So in looking at that, so being able to provide a map for us to meet our statutory requirement to have to the comptroller's office by December 31st is a concern of mine. Also, too, we're already behind in this process because of COVID and because the Census Bureau was late getting us this, our data, our information. And looking and preparing our timeline, preparing for our first meeting will be September the 8th to discuss this. Our goal, my goal as chair, is to have this district maps to you in your November meeting. Because if for some reason, because it's just a recommendation, you're the one statutorily has the requirement to adopt the map. So if there's something that you want to adjust, you want to amend, you want to reject, and kick it back to our committee, we've got to December to get that done. Because my concern is if we go to December, that Thursday night, you reject it, you amend or whatever, we start issuing petitions for county commission districts on the following Monday. So there's a window there that we can't come back and comply and then come back before you. So our goal is to get this done, and so it narrows our window to get it before this body in November. So, but like I said, we'll prepare whatever you want us to prepare, but those are some issues and concerns of mine that I have, is getting into, well, this is a great idea, but once you dig a little deeper, you see some unintended consequences that may happen. So I would have liked to seen this a little more time span instead of here as we get into the start of our work, is my concern.
Mayor?
Alan, would it be the chicken or the egg? Which one would come first? You've set a deadline, you and your committee set a deadline for December, so petitions can be done, but if the commission chose to go to 14, we would have to change our charter, right? County Commission charter, and that cannot be done until the legislature reconvenes in January to change our private act.
Well, you actually probably look at February by the time the committee, everything gets set up and get operational, because they're coming into a new session. So that's true. I didn't mention that.
Mr. Farley, in that private act, does it not say that the commission can make changes to those districts that are associated with the school and road board zones at any time?
That's true, but you also have members who are currently sitting on those boards who are in the middle term, where this body here meets or is elected every 4 years as a collective group. Those are actually, don't run at the same time. But you would actually be drawing people, you'd be drawing district or school zones or road board zones of people that are already serving in the middle of their term.
The only ones that would affect, though, were the ones that were just re-elected in 2020, which is half the road board and half the school board. They have to stay in their current zone, but I'm failing to understand how cutting to 14 and keeping them in their zone are exclusive.
Well, I mean, because the actual private act, which you commented a while ago, which I found interesting, specifically it designates which districts make which zone.
But it also says that it can be changed. It also says the county commission can make that change at any time.
Yes, that's true, but you've got to go back and change the private act.
And so if we
have to do both simultaneously.
If we make the change to the commission districts that are in the zones, it says we can do that, and then we can send a request for them to just take out all that verbiage in there about which districts go in which zone, and just say that the county commission can draw the zones as it sees fit, then that problem is solved. So I don't see how these things are exclusive. I think that we can do both at the same time.
So when a candidate comes to ask us they want to run for this position, and we say, okay, well, this private act hasn't been enacted yet, so, we're kind of, you've put the election commission in limbo with that situation. Why don't you do this, Commissioner? Why don't you come up and prepare this, and 2 years from now, or 4 years from now, go through this process, and then we'll have to go through the redistricting process all over again. But I would prefer to go through and look at it and prepare for 10 years down the road or 4 years down the road, instead of just trying to put it all together here within 2 weeks, get it before this commission, the county commission in 2 weeks, and then, because even if you push it off a month to come back and discuss and vote on in October, it really narrows our window, is my only concern.
Is the plan to keep the current commission districts that are in those school and road board zones the same ones that are there now? Like keeping districts like 5, 11, and 12 together in a road and school board zone, or are you looking at refiguring those to make them more logical?
We're going to go by what the private act says. That's for the county commission to determine, not the redistricting committee, if I understand you correctly.
If we adhere to those same groupings that we have now, that map is going to be a fiasco. We're going to have to reorganize which districts go in which school and road board zones, or it's going to be all over the map.
Right. I mean, if you go to 14, then you're going to have 14 districts.
Even if we use 21, I mean, just the way the population is all shifted over toward Blackman and the western part of the county, those school and road board zones are not going to be able to have the same commission districts in them. But there's going to have to be a couple of districts that are just picked up and moved over there into the Blackman area.
I don't...
Commissioner Gooch's district is 10,000 people over. I mean, there's going to have to be a whole new district that goes over there. And so that's going to throw off the school and road board zones everywhere. If you move a district from here to there and try to keep the same groupings that we have now in the it's just not going to work and be logical. So we're going to have to rework those. But that's why in the...
I have to disagree with you on that one.
Well, that's why in the private act, though, it says that the commission can make changes to that at any time. And so if we make the changes, we can get them like we want them, and then we can ask the legislature in January and February to take out all that old language about which districts go in which zones and leave it open-ended so that the commission can do it however it sees best in the future. I just don't see how these things are exclusive. I think we can do it and do it effectively.
Well, my goal and my objective is to make sure that the boundaries that are drawn are legal, they meet the requirements, what's required by statute, because we will have to defend those boundaries and make sure that we're following those guidelines, and whatever they are, we're going to make sure we do that. But also I want to touch on something that Commissioner McAdoo said. I'm going to put my personal hat on since I got this opportunity. City residents or county residents who pay county taxes that also have landfill issues and also have jail issues, so a portion, and county schools, so those people deserve a voice within county government as well. So I wanted to kind of address you, yeah, that footprint has grown, I agree, but those folks do deserve to have a voice as well.
Mr. Chairman. Chairman Harris. Can I make a statement?
Yes, sir, always.
You're talking about it's going to be complicated to do. In 1978, where Bill at? Is he looking at me? In 1978, start of 1978, it was 44 commissioners. They had a constitutional convention. Only reason I remember that, only reason I'm giving you this information, because I was a poor young gentleman then. And I jumped into the election, and I thought we were going to have 2 in each district. But by May, they had cut it from 44 to 20, from 42 to 21. They cut it by May. I remember it just like it was yesterday. So if you're talking about it's going to be a lot of work, well, how did we get it done in 78? Because it was done in May of this year of the election.
I'm not saying there's going to be a lot of work. I mean, we've got every day between now and December 31st to get it done. That's not the issue. I've never said that it wasn't doable. Like I said, if this body tells us that's what you want, that's what we're going to deliver. All I'm saying is that I just wish this conversation and this discussion, how we function as a government, is very important. I just wished it would have been brought up early on to have all this stuff vetted, because it puts a lot of pressure on this committee to come up and try to put something together when we're already have a narrow window based off of the time frame that we had the data. But what you asked for, you will receive what you asked for.
Well, basically speaking, we asked for it 10 years ago. So we could have been looking forward at it, that maybe in the future, with the way the county is growing and the way the city municipality is growing, that we possibly would be looking at a different set of districts, or reduction in county districts, with the county districts not the same. They are going down, the county districts outside the city municipalities. So therefore, we should have been looking at that.
Like I said, I agree with a lot of points on both sides of this issue. My thing is the time frame and the legal boundaries that we have to operate in.
Any questions for Mr. Farley? All right, thank you. Bring us back in session. We have a motion on the floor. I have a second. Go ahead, Commissioner Rather.
Hopefully my last time. I agree with Mr. Farley. Part of my district actually bleeds over in Smyrna. I'm 5th or 6th generation in this county. I get calls from so many other districts. I think Commissioner Reed, Chairman Reed can attest to this. I've had to call him about somebody I knew in his district. I've had to call city councilmen. They are county residents all over, whether they're Smyrna, Eagleville, Laverne, wherever. And so it's amazing to call a city councilman
and we work together for the good of what? For the good of that citizen that is not only a Murfreesboro City resident, but a Rutherford County resident. We work together to get things done. It's happened in Smyrna, it's happened in Murfreesboro, that my district's not even in Murfreesboro city limits. But there are people that have called me that we just get together, whether it's councilmen or whoever, other commissioners, for the sake of the good of a citizen. And it works. I've seen it work for 3 years. I know I'm new. I'm 3 years into this, but it works. And so, you know, if it's not broken, I don't know what we're trying to fix.
Anybody else? Well,
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner?
One other situation is regarding the school board members and the road board members. They're not on the same plane with the county commissioners because 4 of them are elected one time and 3 of them the next time. It's not all 7 at one time. So I don't know, opening up Pandora's box, I don't know how that would work with 14, because that would reduce the way it is now. Each school board member and road board member has 3 districts, and that'd knock them down to 2. Of course, that would cover the 14, but, you know, I don't know how much more work that would take because of the voting process, the election process.
Well, it's a good debate. You know, kind of just, I mean, Commissioner McAdoo, we just bought 21 chairs. Anyway, I have a motion, I have a second, and we had to address this. So we're going to do a roll call, okay? So the motion is to change to inform the redistricting, to change the commission map to 14 commissioners instead of 21. Everybody got that? Everybody got it? All right, go ahead.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
No.
Commissioner Johnson?
No.
Commissioner Reed?
No.
Commissioner McAdoo?
Yes.
Chairman Harris?
No. All right, gentlemen, let's move on. Next on the agenda is the litigation list. I have went over this. Commissioners, I would really like for, if we have any questions on this, I want to kind of brag on Nick. We always kind of go at it all the time, but Nick's done a good job. We haven't had anything in 2 months, or has it been 2 months? We ain't been sued in 2 months. It's pretty good. We just saved you money, Commissioner. All right, I'm trying to make it a little easier. All right, let's move on. Next on the agenda is employee handbook. So I'm assuming that is Sonia. Come forward. Recognize.
Thank you. So over probably the last several months, I brought policies through this body to approve, and I put them into the handbook, in the back part of the handbook. But in going through, there was just some cleanup items that we needed to make, whether it be verbiage, and I don't know if you want to go through. I went through and highlighted all the changes. If you wanted me to talk about those point by point, or if you just want to give me a high-level overview. But a lot of the policies that were in here were either they were acknowledgement forms that the body had approved. I mean, I don't create a form that I don't take before the mayor and the county attorney and then bring to this body to approve. So I've added those into the handbook so that when a new hire comes on, they're not filling out 2 hours worth of paperwork. They had an acknowledgement form for everything. So anytime we did something new, for example, a couple of years ago, I brought forth a reimbursing agreement. So if somebody left the county within 1 year of hire, that they had to, if they resigned to go somewhere else, they had to reimburse the county for their new hire startup cost. And that was something that I brought forth. And so those items have been added in here. That's what the majority of the items of changes. The other items that are in here, for example, there was in one place where it said, this handbook is for all employees. Well, that's not necessarily true, because 3 of our elected officials who, through their, they're able to have their own employee handbook. So when we say all, that would encompass their employees as well, and that might be confusing for a new hire to say, do I follow the sheriff's office or the property assessor or the register's of deeds handbook, or do I follow this one? So the language was changed and added in for those other handbooks that are out there. Also, some of the pronouns were changed in the handbook. They were changed from he or she to they, so that was in line to make sure that it fit all of our employees' needs. The other is the at-will employment was added into the introduction and was also added into the language of identifying what an employee was, and also into the recruitment, just so that we're not creating a contract with someone when we hire them. We're just making sure that they're aware that, as you know, Rutherford County government is an at-will employer. A couple of the other items that are added in here were related to items within Mr. Elam at Elam's office, insurance and risk management, where it relates to OJI, or also healthcare reform. Those are things within their handbook and within their policies and their plan design, and those were added in here to make sure that they were not in conflict with what he had in his policies. Let me see if I can think of one of the changes also that we added with COVID. We found that a lot of the things we couldn't do in person anymore. Used to, we would have an orientation. The mayor and others would come by to sit down with our employees whenever we would have the orientation, and because of COVID, we started doing things virtually. That was another item that was updated in here, because it implied that we did that in person, and we don't have in-person orientation anymore. Let me see what another one. Trying to see if only the things that's in here that you have not seen before. There's several items under the technology section, which is pages 22 to 27. And that, again, was an acknowledgement form. The IT department has a form in order to grant somebody access to our internet, our email, and instead of having them have to sign a form, it was put in the handbook so that everything was here in one place for them. Keep going. There's a couple of sections where it talks about pay and the number of hours to work. Some of the departments are 37.5 hours, and some of them are 40 hours, based upon how they were set up when the departments were created. And the handbook said 40, so that would be very confusing to an employee, you know, not knowing what their hours were if they outlined them. So we added in the 37.5 or 40 as designated by their department. Let me see. And then there's some items in the payroll sections and longevity that the payroll employees had talked to us about, one of which is longevity. That confuses people sometimes because the longevity pay is based upon 3 full fiscal years of service, and before it just said 3 years of service, so somebody could in their mind think, but it's fiscal years. So we updated that to say fiscal calendar. And then we now have electronic timekeeping in all of our departments, and so it updated it from timesheets to the electronic timekeeping under the payroll and timekeeping procedures. Insurance. Added in under the retirement section, our 457 and our 401k and our Roth accounts, added in Empower. It used to be Nationwide. Although the handbook did not say which vendor it was, we added in Empower so they'd know who their supplemental retirement would be through. And that's the overview of the changes in the handbook. If there's any questions.
Any questions? I need a motion to send this to the commission. Do I have a motion for the new language? Mr. Johnson? Commissioner Rather? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Thank you, Ms. Sonia. All right, I'm going to do something a little different here because Mr. Cantrell is chairman of BCA, and I'm going to give you an opportunity. Ms. Cantrell, you didn't have your application in on time, but I'm going to allow you to speak, and I'm sure you will be nominated on the floor. So we'd like you the opportunity to speak and say what you want. Please. Yes, sir.
Let me apologize to all of you. I'm not the absent-minded professor, as you may think. Not to make excuses, I've been dealing with some damage at our house a couple of weeks ago when we had a storm, and I was dealing with those this afternoon and didn't realize that the appointments would come up tonight. So I apologize to all of you for that. I would like to be considered. I've been chairman of the Board of Zoning Appeals for 30 years. Some of you have observed what we have done and know whether I'm a legitimate candidate or not. So I would appreciate being considered again as a member of the Board of Zoning Appeals. And again, Mr. Chairman, I apologize for being late and for overlooking this. My understanding was my term would end in October, so I thought I had a little bit of time, but you all meet the first Monday of the month, and the first Monday next month is on a holiday, Labor Day, so I guess you have an early meeting. But anyway, please consider me. I don't know what you need to do, but I would like to be reappointed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Ms. Cantrell, the meeting is next Thursday, so a commissioner can nominate you on the floor. I think you know that, understand that. All right, let's move on. Is there any other business? Okay. Okay. Just been informed that we have new business. We had the intra-local agreement with cities, cost share agreement. I believe it has something to do with the wording. Mr. Mitchell, come on up.
Thank you very much, Commissioners, and thank you, Mayor and Commissioner Harris and Rachel for getting this in. I have been informed, I've been in conversation with the cities, and as you may or may not know, we are, if it's all right, I'm going to take this out. I feel like I'm talking in a muffler here. We are reimbursed for the cost of reappraisal, and as set by statute, it's 67.5/1601. In the absence of any agreement between the county and cities thereof imposing a property tax, local costs of reappraisal of properties within the city shall be paid 1/2 by the county and 1/2 by the city. Currently, that is done on the 4th year of the reappraisal cycle. As has been acknowledged, we're growing very quickly. We have a lot of parcels. The cost to operate the office is accelerating. By going to an annual billing, it will make it easier for these cities to budget, and it also puts the reimbursement back into the county treasury on a quicker cycle than it would have otherwise. I worked with Nick on getting the language correct on this, and I think you may have a copy of what the contracts look like. Before we can move forward with it, though, we will need the permission of the county commission to sign an agreement with myself and with the cities to permit the cities to pay us quicker than they normally would have. So we're just kind of asking for your permission to have the cities give us our money quicker.
So we're just simply doing some wording here?
Yes, sir.
That's all it is? Okay.
It's just, they're going to pay us anyway. They'll just pay us once every 4 years, or they can pay us every year. And their preference is to go ahead and, instead of holding the money and trying to accumulate it and pay us in one lump sum, pay for it as it comes due each year.
That's the agreement you made with them? And you
yes,
want
sir.
this recognized by the steering committee? Go before the full commission?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Y'all have any questions on this?
So basically, we're asking for these 4 sharing agreements to go forward onto the full commission. Is that what you're...
If there is a motion for that, yes, sir. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
You get a motion? I'll have a second. Second by Commissioner McAdoo. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Any other business?
Chairman.
Mr. Rather?
I wasn't going to say any more until Chairman Cantrell finally showed up. I don't know the process. I think, are recommending Mike Curtis, Renee Curtis, and William Harper. So could there be a recommendation that we send those 3 and Zane Cantrell to the full commission and let the commission vote for the 3? Because I served 8 years under Chairman Cantrell, and we've got a wealth of knowledge and experience in that man that runs that board very, very well. So I know I could, or anybody else could, in the commission meeting, nominate him, but could this committee send those 4 through? That, I guess that's my question.
No, the answer is no. We voted on 3 members.
Yes.
And 3 applicants, and that is our recommendation as through the vote and through the motion to send those 3 to the thing. But Mr. Cantrell can be nominated by you. I mean, you voted for the other 3, so.
I did. I didn't see his name on here. I didn't.
It was, and I think there was a problem with the, this body voted last year, or the year before, I know it voted, but we voted that you had to have your application in 1 week before you get nominated. So that was the rule, and that's, where we go with that. Commissioner Johnson.
I have one small question. Has there been any more thought or dialogue regarding a policy about committee members missing meetings, et cetera?
Yeah, good question. I have turned that over to the county attorney, and I don't think he has got that back to me yet on it. We're dealing with some wording, so yes, we are dealing with that. We are addressing it. We just ain't got the legal verbiage yet. So once that me and him get together, I'll present it to this steering committee. Yes, sir. Is there any other business?
Mr. Chairman, back to this question about Mr. Cantrell's application. We need to read that policy very carefully because I believe it said that the commission can nominate someone from the floor, but that person had to have an application in timely. Was Mr.
He has his application turned in, so it's 1 week.
Was it not on SharePoint?
No. But he can be brought up to the floor if he has his application in 1 week before the county commission meeting. So he just turned it in, so he can be nominated on the floor, but he's not recommended by the.
I'm all for considering him. I think he's a great applicant, but I'm pretty sure our policy said that we can nominate from people that complied with the turning the application in before the steering committee.
I'll check on that.
We need to read that very carefully.
I will. I'll give you an answer on that, and I'll send it to everyone. All right, nice meeting. Is there anything else? Since there's none, we are adjourned.